The first thing I remember about Callum's phone call is the silence before he spoke. My ex-husband had always been controlled, even through our divorce. So when I heard him swallow hard and say my name like he was breaking, I sat down before I knew why. It was a Thursday evening. Our daughter, Wren, was at my kitchen table doing homework with a purple marker because pencils always disappeared in my apartment. I stepped into the hallway and pulled the bedroom door almost shut. Callum told me he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He said it had spread, that the doctors were talking in months, maybe 6 if treatment helped, maybe less. He named an oncologist, Dr. Haldren, at a place he called Northwick Oncology. He said there had been scans, blood work, a quiet room, and the kind of news no one can prepare for. I asked if he was alone. I asked if his sister knew. I asked what I could do. That was when he brought up the house. Our divorce had not been dramatic. There had been no affair I knew of, no screaming scene, no smashed plates. We had become careful roommates who loved the same child and no longer knew how to love each other. That made his call easier to believe. Callum was not my enemy in my mind. He was the man who still packed Wren's lunch on his mornings and texted me when she had a fever. I thought our marriage had ended, but our decency had survived. The house on Briarwell Lane was still jointly owned. In the divorce, Callum and I had agreed to sell it within 18 months and split the equity evenly. He stayed there after I moved out because it gave Wren one familiar place, and because I could not keep living inside rooms where our marriage still echoed. The agreement was clear, but not cruel. We had been proud of how civil we were. Callum said he could not bear the thought of strangers walking through the house while he was dying. He said he wanted to leave it to Wren directly, something stable from him after he was gone. If I signed over my half, he said he could protect it for her. I know what the agreement says, he told me. But I don't have time to fight over paperwork. I need to know she'll have something of me. I cried quietly so Wren would not hear. I did not ask for records. I did not ask to speak with a doctor. I did not call my own attorney. I did not even write down the names he gave me, because writing them down would have meant treating his death like a transaction instead of a catastrophe. I heard a man I had loved for 11 years telling me he was dying, and I thought refusing would make me monstrous. So I said yes. 3 weeks later, I sat in the office of Callum's attorney, Victor Race, and signed a quitclaim deed transferring my half of the house to Callum. Victor asked if I understood what the document did. I said yes. He asked if I had independent counsel. I said no. He asked if I wanted time to consult someone. I looked at Callum, sitting beside me in a loose sweater, red-eyed and quiet, and said it was not necessary. Callum hugged me in the parking lot afterward. He smelled like the cedar soap he had used during our marriage. "You don't know what this means," he whispered. For months, I believed I had done something painful but decent. I adjusted my budget around the loss. I asked Callum how he was feeling, and he gave vague answers, tired, waiting on appointments, one day at a time. He said he wanted to tell Wren only when he understood the treatment plan better. I accepted that too, because grief made every delay seem tender. Nearly 5 months later, Wren's school held a spring recital. The auditorium smelled like floor wax and damp coats. I was checking my phone when I heard Callum laugh. I looked up and saw him walking in with Wren, carrying grocery store tulips. He looked healthy. Not bravely composed, not temporarily improved, but healthy. His face had color, his shoulders were broad, and when he bent to tie Wren's shoe, he moved easily. He was wearing the navy blazer I bought him for his 40th birthday, and it fit him exactly as it always had. For 1 second, I felt relief. Maybe treatment was working. Maybe miracles happened quietly. Then he saw me and his expression flickered. It was gone almost instantly, replaced by a smile, but I had seen it calculation. I did not confront him. Wren was glowing with excitement, teachers were lining up children, and parents were filming. More importantly, if Callum had lied, accusing him in that auditorium would only warn him before I understood what he had done. So I smiled for Wren. I watched her sing about rivers and seasons, while my mind replayed every conversation since the diagnosis. The doctor whose name I had never verified. The clinic I had never searched. The appointment I had never attended. The way he had asked for the house before asking for help telling our daughter. By the final bow, I knew two things. I might have been terribly wrong about him, and if I was, the mistake had my signature on it. That night, after Wren fell asleep, I opened my laptop and searched for Northwick Oncology. Nothing matched what Callum had described. There was no oncology practice by that name in our area. I searched Dr. Haldren with every spelling I could imagine and found no licensed oncologist, no hospital affiliation, nothing. I also searched my own memory with the same desperation. Had he looked thinner at pickup? Had his hands shaken when he buckled Wren's backpack? Had I ignored signs because divorce had trained me not to study him closely? Every question seemed to accuse me from both directions. If he was sick, I was cruel for doubting him. If he was lying, I had been careless with my own future. At 2 a.m, I opened the PDF of the quitclaim deed and stared at my own signature. The document did not care that I had been crying when I agreed. The next morning, I called an attorney. Priscilla Nakamura had a small downtown office, gray walls, thick binders, and one jade plant in the window. She listened without interrupting as I told her about the call, the diagnosis, the deed, and the recital. When I finished, she asked, "Did you ever see a diagnosis letter, scan report, bill, portal message, anything from a medical provider?" I said no, and shame burned through me. Priscilla did not shame me. "Grief is not stupidity," she said. "Urgency is a tool. If he fabricated this, he chose the tool carefully." She told me not to confront Callum. She sent formal requests and preservation letters connected to the oncology practice and physician he had named. 2 weeks later, she called me back to her office. There was no Northwick Oncology registered in our state. The address Callum gave belonged to an insurance broker. No Dr. Haldren existed in any relevant medical licensing database. I tried to reach for explanations. Maybe I misheard. Maybe the practice changed names. Maybe illness made him confused. Priscilla let me sit with those possibilities for a moment before saying, "Odalys, the doctor does not exist." That was when the room seemed to tilt. Part of me had still been wishing for an explanation that made Callum sick but honest. It is a terrible thing to realize you have been hoping your child's father is truly dying, because the alternative is worse. Priscilla recommended a private investigator named Marisol Vance. Marisol was careful and plain-spoken. She explained what she could legally check: property records, court records, business registrations, public financial activity, social media, employment patterns. She could not steal medical records, and I did not want her to. I wanted the truth, not another violation. For the next month, my life split in two. On one track, I packed lunches, answered work emails, helped Wren with school projects, and texted Callum only about parenting logistics. On the other, I waited for proof that he had invented his own death to take my money. Callum acted normal. That was the most disturbing part. He asked about soccer cleats. He sent pictures of Wren making pancakes. When I asked how he was feeling, he wrote, "Managing. One day at a time." The phrase made me furious because it sounded borrowed from actual suffering. Marisol found no sign of cancer treatment, no medical leave, no public trace of chemotherapy, hospital stays, or specialist visits. Callum was still working full-time. A fitness app he had forgotten was public showed him checking into the gym several times a week. Then Marisol found Colette Fenwick. Colette was a real estate staging consultant with polished photos and expensive taste. I had never met her, but I recognized the type of life her pages were selling: pale kitchens, brass fixtures, linen sofas, captions about fresh starts and intentional living. She and Callum had begun appearing in the same tagged posts a few months after our divorce. Then came a photo of 2 coffee cups on the porch of my old house. The caption read, "Building something beautiful." Marisol found more. Mortgage inquiries. Property searches in a higher-priced neighborhood. A plan for Callum and Colette to buy a larger place together. The numbers did not work unless Callum could bring substantial equity from the Briarwell house, my equity. The timeline was simple and brutal. Callum wanted money tied up in a house he still only half-owned. Selling under the divorce agreement meant splitting proceeds with me. Refinancing honestly would require my consent. So he created a crisis stage for cancer, a dying wish, and Wren's future wrapped around the request so tightly that refusing felt cruel. When Marisol laid the documents across Priscilla's conference table, I felt a rage so clean it almost frightened me. Callum had not merely lied. He had studied where I was softest and pressed there. Priscilla filed a civil action to void the quitclaim deed for fraudulent inducement. She also filed an emergency motion to stop Callum from refinancing, transferring, or encumbering the house while the case was pending. That morning, after dropping Wren at school, I sat in my car with both hands on the steering wheel. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sick. Whatever happened next, Wren's father had done something that would now live invisibly inside our family. At 11:17, Callum called me. I let it ring. Callum called 4 times the day he was served. The first voicemail was controlled. He said there had been a misunderstanding. The second was wounded, asking how I could do this without talking to him first. The third was angry enough that he forgot to sound sick. The fourth warned that if I dragged him through court, I would regret what it did to Wren. I saved everything and sent it to Priscilla. Her reply was simple: do not engage except for parenting logistics. So I answered texts about Wren's schedule and ignored everything else. When he wrote, "I did have a health scare and you are twisting it," I forwarded it. The restraint was harder than I expected. Part of me wanted the confrontation, because I wanted to hear him admit it. But he had already used my openness once. At the emergency hearing, Callum sat across the aisle in a gray suit, grave but not ill. His attorney argued that I had signed voluntarily and that Callum's medical privacy was being invaded. Priscilla argued that the property had to be frozen because there was strong evidence that he obtained my ownership through a fabricated terminal diagnosis and intended to refinance. The judge asked one question: "Is your client asserting that he has or had stage 4 pancreatic cancer?" Callum's attorney paused. Then he said, "My client experienced a serious health concern that he communicated imperfectly during emotional distress." That pause told me almost everything. The judge granted the emergency order. No refinance, no transfer, no new liens. The house would stay untouched until the fraud claim was heard. In the hallway, Callum approached me. "Are you proud of yourself?" I looked at him and thought of the night I cried, because I believed he was dying. "You told me stage 4 pancreatic cancer." His jaw tightened. I was scared. "You named a doctor who does not exist." Priscilla touched my elbow, and I walked away. 3 weeks later, we went to mediation. Callum's first offer was that the deed should stand, and he might pay me a small amount later for closure. I laughed once before I could stop myself. His next position was that he deserved more of the house, because part of the down payment years earlier had come from his parents. That issue had already been resolved in the divorce agreement he signed. His third position was that continuing the case would hurt Wren. Priscilla leaned toward me and said quietly, "He is using the same lever. Our daughter, again." Late that afternoon, everyone sat in the same room. Priscilla laid out the evidence: no oncology practice, no Dr. Haldren, no treatment records or corroboration. The deed signed 3 weeks after the false diagnosis. The mortgage inquiries, the property searches with Colette, and the refinance plan that required my equity. When she finished, I looked at Callum and asked, "Why?" At first, he tried the softer version. He said he had abdominal pain, that a doctor mentioned tests, that he panicked, that the words came out wrong. Priscilla opened a folder and reminded him that he had not merely failed to correct me. He had named a practice and physician, repeated the illness later, accepted a property transfer, and allowed me to believe I was helping a dying man protect our daughter. His face changed then. The sorrow drained out, and resentment took its place. He said he had been angry about the divorce settlement. He said the house should have been his because of his parents' contribution, and because he had stayed there after I moved out. He said I was fine in my apartment and did not need the equity the way he did. He said Colette had nothing to do with the diagnosis, which confirmed more than it denied. "So you decided dying would work better?" I asked. He flinched. The mediation did not settle, but it mattered. He was no longer denying the lie. He was trying to make it understandable. The weeks before the court hearing were exhausting. Fraud sounds dramatic, but living through a civil case is mostly documents, timelines, declarations, emails, bank records, old divorce papers. Every piece of evidence made me revisit the moment I trusted him. Meanwhile, Wren needed normal life. She needed multiplication help, lunches, bedtime, and comfort when she missed the pear tree at the old house. I started seeing a family therapist, Dr. Lena Ortiz, because I was afraid my anger would spill onto Wren. Anger is information, Dr. Ortiz told me. Your job is to decide where it belongs. So I put it in therapy and court documents, and in long walks when Wren was with Callum. I did not put it in her lunchbox or her bedtime routine. At the hearing, Callum admitted under oath that he had not been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He admitted there was no Dr. Haldren. He admitted he never corrected me before I signed. Priscilla asked whether he understood I signed because I believed he was terminally ill. He hesitated. The judge told him to answer, "Yes," Callum said. That one word ended something. The judge voided the quitclaim deed. She explained it carefully. Without the outrage part of me wanted to hear. A deed obtained through a fabricated, material misrepresentation about a life-threatening illness could not stand. I had relied on Callum's statements when I transferred my ownership interest, and that reliance was reasonable, because he was my former husband, my co-parent, and someone I believed still had a basic moral floor. The house returned to the original divorce terms: joint ownership, immediate sale, even split. No refinance. No special claim from Callum, because his parents had helped with money years earlier. Relief did not come like a wave. It came like oxygen returning after I had been holding my breath for months. Priscilla also pursued damages. Callum's lie had forced me to hire a lawyer, pay an investigator, miss work, and fight to recover ownership I should never have lost. The final settlement covered my legal fees and a portion of the equity's appreciation during the months he had wrongfully held the house in his name. There was no apology in the settlement agreement. Legal documents often resolve harm without making the person name it honestly. Callum signed because the alternative was worse for him, not because he had become remorseful. I had to stop waiting for an apology, as if it were the last missing page. Priscilla referred the case to the district attorney. I had mixed feelings because criminal charges would pull our family into another system, but she was direct with me. You are not doing this to him. He created the facts. The state decides what to do with them. Callum eventually pleaded guilty to a reduced fraud charge. He received 2 years of probation and a restitution order for the legal costs his fabrication caused. It did not feel like movie justice. It did not restore the world where he would never have done it. But it put the truth on record. It stopped him. It made the lie cost something. The house sold 6 months after the deed was voided. Walking through it before closing was harder than I expected. The rooms were empty and staged with furniture that belonged to no one. The pantry door still had Wren's height marks, penciled along the inside. I photographed every mark before the final walkthrough. In the backyard, the pear tree was dropping hard green fruit into the grass. Wren had always called them rock fruit because they were too tough to eat. I picked one up and started crying so suddenly that the real estate agent pretended to check her phone. I was not crying because I wanted the marriage back. I did not. I was crying because that house held a version of my life where trust had seemed ordinary. You do not notice ordinary trust while you have it. You sign forms, share passwords, believe a voice on the phone. Then one day you realize ordinary trust was a door someone else could open from the inside. When my share of the sale proceeds arrived, I used it to buy a smaller place a few streets from Wren's school. It had 2 bedrooms, 1 tiny office, old kitchen cabinets, and a balcony barely big enough for 2 chairs and basil. It was not Briarwell Lane. That was the point. Wren chose soft green paint for her room and called it frog adjacent but not babyish. We painted badly one Saturday, streaks on our arms, radio too loud. At one point she looked around and said, "This place feels like ours." I had to turn away before answering. Co-parenting after the case became a discipline, not a feeling. Before Callum and I had been proud of our amicable divorce. Afterward, civility had to exist without trust. Dr. Ortiz helped me set rules. Communication through a parenting app, schedule changes in writing, receipts attached, no personal conversations unless necessary, no using Wren as a messenger, no discussing the legal case around her. Those rules sounded cold, but they made peace possible. Because the boundaries held, I could be polite at school pickup, without wondering whether politeness would be mistaken for access. Wren knew something had happened. Children are not fooled by silence, they just fill it with their own explanations. She knew the house was being sold after all. She knew her father and I were different around each other. One night she asked, "Did Dad do something wrong?" She was 9. Too young for the full ugliness and old enough to know when adults were hiding something. I sat beside her and said, "There was a serious legal mistake about the house, and adults had to fix it. You did not cause it, and you do not have to fix it. Your dad and I both love you." She asked if I was mad at him. I took a breath. I have big feelings about what happened. Those feelings are for me to handle with other adults. They are not your job. It was the most honest answer I'd give without handing her a weight she could not carry. I know she may learn the full story someday. She may find documents or hear Callum's version first. I cannot control that timeline. I can only make sure her childhood is not built around carrying adult betrayal before she is ready. I still have the original quitclaim deed. It sits in a locked file box with the court order, settlement papers, Marisol's reports, and Priscilla's correspondence. I do not look at it often, but I know exactly where it is. The first time I opened it after the case ended, I expected shame. My signature was there, black ink on white paper, steady and obedient. I had signed away half a house without my own lawyer, because a broken voice told me there was no time. But shame is not what stayed. Grief stayed. Real grief, not the kind Callum invented. Grief for the collapse of a basic assumption that shared history protects you from deliberate harm. Sometimes shared history gives a person the map. Priscilla told me fraud built around illness is rare, but not unheard of. A terminal diagnosis is powerful because decent people do not want to interrogate the dying. Compassion tells you to move quickly. Fear tells you there may not be time. Old love tells you not to make someone prove pain before you respond. That is why he chose it. Priscilla said, he chose a lie designed to bypass verification. I have repeated that sentence many times. Callum did not win by being brilliant with paperwork. He won, briefly, by making verification feel cruel. Asking for records would have felt heartless. Bringing my own attorney would have felt adversarial. Saying I needed time would have felt like stealing peace from a dying man. He counted on the person I try to be. For a while, I wanted to become harder. Someone who would never be fooled, because she never trusted anyone enough to be vulnerable. But that would have meant Callum was still shaping me. So I chose something less dramatic and more useful. I kept my compassion, but I gave it procedures. Now, if an emotional request involves money, property, legal rights, medical claims, or Wren's future, I slow it down. I ask for documents. I call someone clear-eyed. I do not sign in a room where only the other person's lawyer is present. Real emergencies can withstand a second phone call. Real illness has records. Real concern for a child does not require one parent to surrender rights in secret. That habit costs time and sometimes money. I consider both cheap. It has also changed how I teach Wren about boundaries. Not through lectures about her father, but through ordinary moments. When she feels guilty saying no to a friend, we practice sentences that do not over-explain. When she asks why adults need contracts, I tell her contracts are not proof people do not care. They help people remember fairness when feelings get loud. Callum and I can now sit in the same auditorium, though not together. At Wren's 5th grade promotion, he sat with his mother and I sat with my sister. Wren crossed the stage in a blue dress, taller than seemed possible. When she saw both of us clapping, she smiled wide. For that moment the work was worth it. Not because Callum deserved peace with me, but because Wren deserved a childhood not organized around his worst choice. After the ceremony, he said, "She looked happy." I said, "She did." That was all. No forgiveness scene, no fight, just two true sentences in public. People ask if I forgive him. They want a clean ending, saintly release, or permanent fury. The truth is less tidy. I have not forgiven him in the sense of deciding it no longer matters. It matters. It changed my family, my finances, and the way I evaluate trust. But I no longer need him to understand the full weight of what he did. His denial does not run my days. The memory I return to most is the recital. Wren on stage, singing with her classmates, while I sat in the audience and realized something was wrong. I almost confronted him there. It would have felt righteous for 10 seconds. It also would have warned him before I had proof, and placed Wren's childhood memory inside my adult panic. Waiting was one of the hardest good decisions I have ever made. If I could speak to myself during that first phone call, I would not call her naive. I would sit beside her in that hallway, with soup simmering and Wren's marker squeaking at the table, and say you can be compassionate and still ask for proof. You can love your child and still protect your future. You can honor pain without signing away your rights in the same breath. Then I would tell her to hang up, call a lawyer, and breathe. Life now is ordinary again. Work, groceries, school forms, basil on the balcony, Wren's jokes from the back seat. A mortgage payment I understand down to the decimal. Ordinary is precious, though no longer innocent. Peace is not the absence of paperwork. Peace is knowing the paperwork matches the truth. Callum tried to turn my compassion into his down payment. He tried to make me grieve him, while he planned a larger life with someone else. He tried to use our daughter as moral cover for taking what we had already agreed was mine. He failed. Not because I was instantly wise. He failed because one inconsistency at a school recital made me ask the question I should have asked earlier, and once I asked it, I did not let shame stop me from finding the answer. That is what I carry forward. Ask, verify, get help, put it in writing. Let compassion move your heart, but do not let it hold the pen alone. Odalys thought she was honoring a dying man's last wish. Callum told her he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, named a doctor who did not exist, and used their daughter Wren's future to convince her to sign away her half of the house on Briarwell Lane. Months later, one healthy-looking school recital exposed the first crack in his story, and that crack led to the truth. There was no diagnosis, no oncologist, and no treatment. Only a plan to refinance the house with Colette and use Odalys's equity for a new life. What would you have done in Odalys's place? Would you have signed out of compassion, questioned him from the beginning, or waited quietly until you had proof like she did? Share this video with someone who enjoys stories about betrayal, justice, and finding the strength to start over. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Subscribe for more emotional stories about trust, family, divorce, and the hard lessons people learn when love is used against them. Until next time, protect your peace, trust your instincts, and remember that a kind heart still deserves the truth. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share this video with them. Thank you for being here. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.